Okay, welcome back. So in this second video, I'm going to show you how you get your bees from the plastic package that you order in January. It arrives in April and you go pick it up usually. Those are rough time frames depending on where you get them. And then you've got to get them and their queen into the colony. So you'll have everything set up and ready, a couple of boxes, and you'll have the entrance closed. So I usually take a clump of grass and put it in that little entrance hole at the bottom. Your goal here is to keep the bees inside the house for at least 24 hours. And that helps them, gives them time to sort of get settled. They've been on a truck, they've come across the mountains in a whole bunch of different weather situations. Um, and now they're here. They've been with their queen. She's in a special cage for, it depends. Sometimes it's just a few days if the truck gets here quickly, sometimes it's a week. So you want to give them time in the hustle and bustle of getting them put into a colony to sort of get adjusted and not leave the house. As soon as the queen comes out, she'll eat and she'll start laying eggs, and that makes this home, and they'll stay. They won't go from that time on. But in the hustle and bustle of getting the bees put in, sometimes they can all take off on you, and that's a lot of money wasted. So you want to kind of keep them inside just to give them a calm entry to their new home. So obviously it's May now when I'm shooting this, and the bees came in April. As it happens, my son Connor was learning about bees in his third grade class. So we shot a video. It's not professional. We're handing the camera back and forth to each other. And I'm speaking to a third grade audience. But I thought we would at least clip it in to give you an idea of how the process happens. There are a lot of different ways you can do this. But we chose a gentler approach this year because it was a little bit on the cooler side. If it's a warmer day, you can do something. There's a really great blog from the gentleman that runs Nature's Nectar, and he shows how a different way where you literally pour the bees in, you spray them, and they pour like water. It's crazy into the colony. I have done that as well, and it works fine. This is just a slightly gentler approach. It makes a little bit more work the next day. But particularly when you're a beginner and you're getting started, this might be a little bit of there's a lot less noise and vigorous bee activity in this approach. So in a second, you can watch my son Connor and I load the bees, and then I'll come back at the end and tell you what you need to do the next day. So there's like one day you put them in, and the next day you go and kind of check and tidy things up. So enjoy my son and Connor and I loading the bees this year.
Hello everyone, we thought we would show you guys, since you're learning about bees, how we hive a new package. So this is a 3-pound package of bees. You can't see them all right now, but they are just crowded in here around the queen. And they have a can of sugar syrup and a queen in her cage. And Connor and I are going to show you how we put them in their hive today. So Connor, will you spray them?
Spray
so we
them?
have, yep,
Okay.
give them a spray. So we have some sugar syrup, and it's just a cup of sugar and a cup of water mixed together. And we spray them to keep them from flying too much. Yep, hit the sides, and then Connor will come around and do this side. Awesome. And then,
There, I think that's enough.
awesome, Connor is gonna lift the package up and just kind of pat it down one time. It's a really loud sound. Yep, but that
Okay.
gets him knocked out of the way. Okay, will you walk around to the other side, Connor?
Sure.
Whoop. And I'm gonna have Connor take the phone and do the recording here. So we'll show
Okay.
you what this looks like. So this is their little can of syrup that's been feeding them on their truck. Whoops, their big truck ride here to Minnesota. And I've got some wax on there. You get to the bottom, you can cap them off a little bit. And we're gonna spray them down a little bit more. We don't want too many to fly away. It's pretty cold here today. And we're gonna cover that up. Oops, sorry, Connor.
It's okay.
And then we're gonna pull out the queen, and she's in her own special cage. So these bees, as they've traveled on the truck, have become this queen's bees. But we're gonna slow release her just to keep her safe. And these are her attendants. They're in charge of feeding her and cleaning her. Let me blow them.
Okay.
But she's the big one in there.
Inside.
Inside the cage, yep. You see it? There you go. One, two, three. They're also keeping her warm. So then, we want to give them a few hours. In the confusion of finding a new home, sometimes they get a little mad. And we don't want them to kill the queen, otherwise the whole colony will die. So, we take a marshmallow.
Can I eat it?
No, because my dirty glove hands have been all over it all day. And what we're gonna do is take the cork out, and you gotta watch that you don't impale her or hurt her. So I'm watching, and this takes a second sometimes because she needs to be moving away. Oops. And now I got a bee squish. There you go. And you just squish the marshmallow. And then we're gonna put her in the colony. And in a couple of hours, they'll eat through that marshmallow and release her. And she will start laying eggs, and this becomes then their home. All right. Now here we go. We're gonna put her, and she's got a little hanging. Are you on me?
Yep. Not anymore.
So here she is. And she's gonna hang back here. And we press her in between the frames, and tonight when they let her out, she'll eat and then start laying eggs right down here in the honeycomb that we have. So then,
Karen might need to come around
okay, here I'll move this here. There. And so now we're gonna put a few extra boxes on. Excuse me, Connor. Oh, scooch. I want to crush this bee. There we go. Well, you will notice too that we have the front door of the hive all the way closed. We don't want to let them out tonight. They need to stay in here for 24 hours to make it their home. So that happens, and then tomorrow Connor and I will come out and pull the packages out. Here, Connor, do you want to tip them in?
Tip them in? Sure.
Let's give them one more spray. I'll take the camera.
One more spray, okay.
Here, let's put them here.
Here's the
Here.
camera. Now point it at me because I'm so cool.
You are cool.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to lift your lid. Spray down the hole. So here they all are, if you want to see what 8,000 bees look like. Which sounds like a lot, but they will be 90,000 strong.
And a lot of them will die, so.
Well, in a good year, we'll have 90,000 bees. Okay, Connor, and then you show how to gently tip this over.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So the hole is down.
So you, like, tip it.
Over.
Whoop.
Yep.
This?
Yep.
And you just,
Snug it right in there.
like, how do you just put it
Perfect, yep.
down? Okay.
And so you can see they're starting to come out. And they'll come and keep their queen warm. And hopefully make it their home.
I named
Okay, so early spring can be really unpredictable weather-wise, but it's really important to get the bees in as soon as you can. You may have to do this in light rain or even a little bit of snow. It happens. And then you have another year, it's Minnesota or Wisconsin, where it's 70 degrees and lovely. It just depends, and you don't get a lot of say. They call you and say the bees are coming Thursday, and you go and get them. There are also mail order sources. I haven't used any of those just because I don't know reputationally how that works. But if you have a mentor, they may be able to help you figure out where to get bees from. So once your bees are in the colony, just like you saw in the video, you come back about 24 hours later, or a little bit more potentially if you can. And there are 3 things you're looking for. Have they gotten their queen out? So she's giving off these pheromones, a smell, all the time that tells the colony the queen is here and she's doing great. If that fades away, a whole other series of things happen. But if the queen is good, and she will be in a brand new package usually, she's sending off the smell so they know she's there. They should have eaten through that marshmallow and she should be free. There will be workers in that little cage because of the smell of her, cleaning it out and, figuring it out, so you might have worker bees in her little cage. If they don't have her out, you do nothing. You leave it. because it means they haven't been with her long enough to really catch on that they are, I almost consider it like falling under her spell. The scent of her makes them her bees, right? All these bees just got poured together in California or wherever they were doing pollination services, and then they added this queen to the container. And now they need to sort of fall under her spell and become her worker, her bees. So if they haven't gotten her out, to me, that's a good sign that they need a little more time to be under her spell. So I would just wait till the next day. If she's out and there's just a couple worker bees, then you want to remove her cage, put that extra frame in, and make sure that the frames are tightened up. And then you will have the package sitting in these upper boxes. So do you remember bee space, that 5/16 of an inch? If you leave an empty box on the top of your colony, like this one, with no frames in it, they're going to fill it with wax, and you can't move it without destroying it, right? So you always want to make sure you pull the package out. There's going to be a few bees lingering. Sometimes I set them by the front entrance. If it's warm enough, they'll crawl out in another day and I'll come clean them away. Sometimes I just shake them out into the colony and then take the rest of it away. You'll want to take these boxes off. So take the package out, take the queen cage out, and take these empty boxes off. It is astonishing how quickly they will put wax in space, any space. In 24 hours, I've had them wax the queen cage to the sides of the frames. They'll put a big panel of wax in that gap where you leave her. So I would definitely get to this, even if the weather's cruddy, at about the 24-hour mark. So that's your second day, getting those things done. You will use a smoker on this day also, not just no more spray, no more sugar water spray. You're using smoke from now on. From here, once you close your hive back up, if you have drawn wax, you can probably leave 2 boxes. If you don't, I would only do the 1 until they're about 70% drawn wax, on about 7 out of your 10 frames. And then you want you to put your second box on, filled with frames. The other piece you want to just make sure is they're going to push on this grass that you have in the front entrance. It's the smallest opening. You only use it for a couple of days. But you want to make sure you pull the grass if they don't have it pushed out yet, which they may not. That will give them a chance to get out of the colony and do those cleansing flights that I was talking about, since they haven't been able to use the bathroom in the house or on their entire truck ride. They're going to need to get out and get themselves cleaned up. You're going to start to see these really cool figure 8 flight patterns in front of the colony. It's navigation. So bees, orientation flight. The bees navigate by the sun. And so they'll start doing these real lazy figure 8s in front of your colony. That's the best sign you can see, because it means your foragers are starting to figure out, where is my house? How do I get back here from anywhere that I go? And they will. It's amazing. So that's day 2. Once you get your queen cage out, you get your actual plastic package out, take any extra stuff out, extra hive bodies away, put your covers back on. I wouldn't come back to this colony for about a week. So 7 days, just let them roll. Let them be in their house, let her start laying eggs, and then you're going to start to figure out and go back in 7 days or so to see, is my queen laying? Is she strong? And kind of how quickly are they filling things in? One other piece of equipment that you will likely need for the beginning stage, particularly your first season, is a feeder. So in early April, the first week of April, nearly nothing is blooming most years here. So you're going to feed your bees. And I can talk a little bit more about that later, but it's usually a sugar syrup. You make it with just pure granulated sugar and water. And it's a 1-to-1 ratio, so a cup of sugar, a cup of water, to stimulate nectar so that they can start drawing wax. So this is dirty. It would be very clean if I were actually using it. I have enough extra honey that I just feed my new packages honey frames. I have enough left over. But if you're using this, it really has to be cleaned up and scrubbed down. It just has some netting here. So the bees climb up underneath from the bottom into the gaps, and they're able to drink the sugar syrup, which you would pour into these chambers. There are other types of feeders. Some look kind of like the frames, where you set almost a frame that's a feeder into the hive, and those work just as well. It's kind of a personal preference. It may be something you ask your mentor about, or do something similar to what they do based on how your hive is set up. But this just sits on top, and it gives your bees a really good start. They also sell commercially pollen patties. So again, if there's no flowers, they need pollen to make the special bee bread that they feed to the baby bees. And so the eggs hatch in a couple of days. There's a whole life cycle to bees. It takes about 28 days for them to hatch and come out, depending on the type of bee, which whether it's a boy or a girl or a queen, those are all different time frames. But they need pollen and water to feed their babies and keep them going. And so they do sell commercially pollen patties that are sort of these pre-made little packets. And that's a really good thing. If you're starting with no drawn comb and a brand new hive kit, feeding your bees sugar water and putting a pollen patty, right here at the top of your hive inside, kind of lay it right down on your frames. Really, really important to getting them a good start. So those would be things you're considering even at the time that you put the bees in or on your second day when they get settled into their colony, making sure they have the food they need to get started. So that should give you enough information to load bees. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. Make sure you're watching Northern Beekeeper. If you're looking out on YouTube, people in the South can get away with feeding bees differently than we can. And there's just a little bit of a difference based on the temperatures they're working with versus what we're doing in early April. So hope you can get your bees loaded and get your first beekeeping season started well. And then when we come back in the next video, I'll actually be out and suited up, and I'll show you how to do your weekly hive checks. These can get a little bit further apart, more like 2 weeks in the high season of summer. But in the beginning, you're really going to want to keep an eye on how well your colony is doing. Also, as a beginner, the more often you can look or watch the progression of how the hive works every week, the more you'll learn and the more you'll know. So it's really important to be in there about every 7 to 10 days. And we'll be doing that next. So thanks a lot.